Good evening, dear listener, and welcome to Croatoan Radio, a broadcast devoted to the retelling of local legends, the renewal of core components of our culture, and of course, grim tales from the county of Croatoan, a region in every continent, every country, and most cities, including yours. See, there's a local tale told between truckers and travelers of the open road who happen to be crossing South Dakota. Tonight, on Croatoan Radio, a vacationing tourist embracing the adventure of the unknown, sleeping in the back of their van, unfortunately finds it by unknowingly spending the night in Croatoan County. Carson never planned his next day till the night before, when he would hop from the front seat to his twin-sized air mattress. He'd lay sandwiched between bags of necessities on one end, all the roadside souvenirs he had collected over the past month on the other. Just a couple more states and he'd have collected magnets, bumper stickers, and rocks from half the country. They were more for his friends back home than anything else. He cared more about the pictures he took, the sights he saw, the local cultures he could enjoy. In every state, there was something different. Large swaths of dense forests could disappear to rows of endless cornfields. Soft, foggy mornings in one state could be thick gray smog of early motorists. Soda could be called pop. He reflected on it in his journal, reviewed it in his phone's albums. Never had he heard more local music. Never had he understood the pulse of the country better. Yet when he would pull his covers and bed for the night, he still felt alone, wishing he could share his travel with someone beyond the media he captured. Sure, he talked with other travelers as often as he could. It was the only substitute for the companionship he craved. Someone to spend the night with, someone to talk over the day with. He would sigh, think, one day I won't feel so alone. To banish this thought, he'd stuffed the desire away beneath the majesty of the natural formations and tourist attractions he observed. However, in the horizontal expanse of South Dakota, he felt the desire return more consistently, the less visual stimulation he received. The passing palette of golden brown, dusty green, and undulating low-lying hills with no tree line or mountain to add definition to the foreground, just the gradient of light to dark blue, the glaring sun, and the occasional withered cloud. It wasn't boring per se, but there was certainly a beauty to it, in the same way Arizona's or New Mexico's desert expanses held beauty. It was more hypnotic than boring, leading to hours disappearing since he last checked his dashboard's clock. Thankfully, his next stop was coming up soon. Early into his transversal of the United States, he found that truckers had the best nose for where to take a shower, where to sleep for the night, and where to eat. Since then, unless he was breaking away to visit a national park, his travels kept him near truck stops, constantly sourcing opinions for his next day. The dusty Bronco Diner sat apart from the strip malls of the nearby town's minor shopping districts. Down a cracked concrete road leaving the freeway, circumventing the bobbing hills to its own oasis of large lots, the dusty Bronco Diner, a 30-pump gas station, and a small hotel replete with a hot tub and 6-foot pool, held the only necessities for travel Carson really cared about. 3 businesses, cradled in the ocean of surrounding farmland, isolated yet close to one of South Dakota's main transportation arteries. The dusty Bronco typified Western Americana, its first noticeable feature a weed-riddled rock garden moat filled with kitschy crafts. Dotting the moat, rusted enamel sculptures held glass baubles. Bobbing-headed aluminum birds waved, and of course, a large rearing horse carved from an oak trunk made its most prominent landmark. An equally large smile spread across Carson's sagging face, drained from the hours of straight road and repetitive scenery. Anywhere from 40 to 50 semis were already parked in the large lot adjacent the gas station, groups of casually talking men and women walking towards the cafe. Swinging into one of the open spots just outside the cafe, he must have been one of 3 non-truckers. The parking area may have been a giant sign saying, "I'm not one of you." But after as many weeks of talking and traveling, he knew how to approach the transit culture. Opening the wooden red door with a long screech, hinges screaming for the oil they'd never receive, the cafe opened to one long, spacious room. The center, an elongated oval-shaped counter with booths lining the walls. Door to the kitchen on one end, hall to the bathrooms on the other. If he was going to socialize, he needed a seat at the counter. Thankfully, there was one seat left. Aromas of sizzling pork, darkening eggs, paninied sourdough, and steaming coffee permeated the air. Multiple conversations struck to the background of yacht rock classics. The walls decorated with black and white photos, nailed pieces of old farm equipment, and neon traffic signage. Carson saddled his stool next to a thin, bald man with a twisting orange beard and a large freckled woman with braids and overalls. Carson addressed her first. "Howdy there. The name's Carson Kidd. And yours?" The woman looked over with an initial reproving glance, but when she saw he was moderately attractive, cracked a grin and held a meaty hand to shake his. "Big Mama's the name. What's a snack like you doing so far from the tourist attractions?" Carson laughed and signaled to the waitress, who signaled back that she was going to be a moment. "Oh, don't get me wrong. I love the attractions, but after talking to enough truckers, I figured out you guys know the best places to camp for the night. And yesterday, when I was in Minnesota, a man by the name of Porky Pig recommended this stop." The scraggly bearded man to Carson's right broke in. "Old Porky Pig? I passed him not a day ago heading in the other direction. What a riot he is." Carson swung his hand around to shake his as well. "I've never met a more jolly fellow. If he grew a white beard, he could be tossing presents from his cab every Christmas." "Too true. The name's Curly. Nice to meet you." The middle-aged waitress, Marlboro pack in her front pocket and a notepad in her hand, walked up and leaned on the counter, resting her back by resting her chest on the edge. "What'll it be, kid?" Big Mama cocked an eyebrow. "Already know his name?" The waitress matched her surprised expression. "His name's Kid. I just call him as I see him." Carson laughed. "So did my mom when she had me." The waitress playfully slapped his hand. "Oh, I'm just joshing. My name's Maddie. I overheard you introducing yourself. What'll you have?" The afternoon transitioned to evening, then finally night as the trio of new friends took on several more. A group of travelers laughing about their stories, attempting to one-up each other, in turn making each tale more unbelievable. Finally, Maddie kicked them out of the diner, then promptly rejoined them to grab some beers from the gas station, retiring to the hotel lobby to continue the party. "You sure it's okay for us to drink in here?" Carson said, checking over his shoulder at the snoring clerk behind the front desk. Maddie waved her hand. "Oh, he won't mind. We're like family here. He comes over for the occasional free filly. We get to have our after party." They sank into the couple of couches while Curly set the drinks on the coffee table and Maddie started the gas fireplace. Big Mama settled in a wingback chair, cracking a tall boy. "We all probably have an early morning, but if you can't loosen up a little, then what's the point in living?" "Cheers to that. My tour is less stressful than yours, though. I live to find new stories, new experiences." Maddie grabbed a can from one of the 12 packs and walked towards the entrance. "Well, if stories are what you're looking for, I've got one you won't find anywhere other than here. A bit of a local legend." Big Mama uncomfortably shifted in her chair. "Oh, come on, Maddie. If it's what I'm thinking, why ruin the mood?" Curly crushed his can and belched loudly. "Eh? What local legend? I've been by this stop at least 10 times now, and I ain't heard it." The other truckers joined in, all interested in Maddie's proposal, especially once her devilish grin curled and she lowered the overhead lights, letting the fire bathe their party in stark contrast. Settling next to Carson on the couch, she drained her can and grabbed another. See, being so close to the highway yet so far from the other towns has its perks. You don't have to deal with pesky tourists. She playfully slapped Carson's thigh. No offense. None taken. But being so far away does mean that it takes at least 20 minutes for the authorities to get here if anything goes wrong. If, say, a semi sits in its spot for 3 days straight till someone investigates, only to find that the driver's been missing the whole time. Curly shot a surprised look to Big Mama and turned to Maddie. Wait, is all this true, or? Maddie stopped him. Don't ruin the story. And yes, hand to God, what I'm about to say, to the best of my recollection, is the whole truth and nothing but. After all, I was the one who discovered the empty cab, and not just once. An eerie silence fell over the other drivers, their captivation sharpening, their beers dulling every other sense. I won't tell you how many times we found empty cabs because y'all are having fun and I don't want to scare you off, but it is an occasional occurrence each year. One night, while I was closing up the diner, I saw someone standing outside in the middle of the parking out front. They were just standing there, not on their phone or nothing, not stretching their legs or having a smoke, standing just outside of the streetlight in the dark. I could tell they wore something long over them, like a blanket, but I couldn't make out their face. I called the cook over to see what I was seeing, but by the time I turned around, they were gone. As I walked back to the car that night, I held the key in one hand and the other in my purse, tightly wrapped around my 9mm. Thankfully, I didn't see anything as I got in the car, but as I drove down the road, I saw them again in my rearview mirror, in the middle of the road, wrapped in a blanket, staring at me till I was just about to turn the first corner. That's when they ran towards the semis. The next morning, we found a car hauling man missing. Doors unlocked. When the gas station checked the cameras to hand whatever they could over to the police, at 1 a.m, at the very edge of the camera, they made out 2 blurry gray dots, barely reflecting the light of the gas station, walking past the other cabs into the fields out back. They checked for footprints for any sign of evidence as to where the driver went, but there was nothing there, as though they just reached the fence line, then disappeared. Maddie waited, the silence carrying weight, before continuing in a dramatic, gruff voice. So when you sleep tonight, think of what might be outside your window, knocking, waiting for you to open it so that it'll take you away, never to be seen again. Curly slapped his knee, sloshing some drops over his already stained tank top. Ah, horse manure. I knew you were pulling my leg. You think that's going to scare me? Maddie laughed and pointed at him, a collective relief washing over the room. You should have seen y'all's faces fixin' to piss yourselves. She gasped as she took another swig, between everyone's laughs and others joining in to share their scary stories in an effort to top Maddie's. Carson noticed Big Mama was a little quieter than the rest of the group, making an effort to join in, but never quite connecting. It was midnight when Curly was the first to attempt standing, only to rest on his knees, gathering courage for the big stumble back to his cab. Well, it's been a blast, but I'm blasted and need to sleep this off if I'm going to be making my miles tomorrow. The group protested, but each person eventually conceded that they too had to get some shut-eye if they were going to make their appointments. This was the part Carson always hated, the end of the party, the return to his air mattress. Well, I had a great time, guys. Thanks for the stories. This is one of those nights I think I'll remember for a long time. Maddie stood with him, holding him a while, then whispering in his ear, "You come back real soon, you hear? Maybe next time you can get us a room so we can stay up longer." She winked and led the stumbling group out of the lobby towards the rows of semis, some idling, others silent except for the noise of some soft snoring. Carson escorted Maddie to her car. "You sure you can drive? Why don't we go halvesies on a room now? It's safer that way." Maddie laughed and shook her head. "I said we should rent a room next time you're here. Plus, I'm just down the street in a motorhome. A couple of cans is nothing to me. I'll be fine." Carson smiled and backed away from her window. "Have a good night then, Maddie. Don't look for any shady characters in blankets." Maddie shook her head. "Oh, I never saw them around the motorhome. Just around the parking lot. Keep something sharp with you tonight. Good luck, kid." Maddie pulled away, a vague cloud of dust trailing her cautious drive down the one road leading out of the trucker's oasis. Carson's mind hazily churned in anticipation. "Wait, did she? Oh, she's trouble. She almost got me a second time." She wasn't kidding. Carson jumped slightly, swinging himself to see Big Mama, who quietly stood next to him. "Whoa, you nearly gave me a heart attack." "At least you're still here." Carson squinted, confused. "What do you mean?" She shook her head. Maddie played it off, but she was telling the truth. "My route takes me through here more often than anyone else. I like this spot because it's got everything I need. And you meet great people. You're one of them. But every year, there's a couple that go missing." Carson rubbed his eyes. "Look, Mama, I don't need any more scaring. I get it. I ain't trying to scare you, Carson. I'm trying to warn you. It's rare, but it happens, so lock your doors and don't open them for no one. I'm going to do the same. Have a good night." Big Mama walked across the lot and climbed into her cab, leaving Carson alone in the silent night, an eastward wind blowing through him, chilling him to the bone. He shivered, quickly observing his surroundings before jogging to his car. As he opened the car door, a strange subconscious prying snaked under his forearms, up his neck, raising hair and bubbling goosebumps in its wake. He didn't want to turn around, but rarely do people want to do the things they feel compelled to. Slowly, he turned, first scanning the hotel, then the gas station, then the parking lot. Wide-eyed, irises open to perceive any light, any strange shifting, anything out of the ordinary at all. Nothing. Sighing, he climbed into the front seat. At the close of his door, he saw it in the side mirror, standing at the entrance. Carson's heart paused, sweat beating in his clammy hands and icy forehead, color draining from his face. He gasped and turned back in his seat to check out his rear window. The street was empty. No sign of the figure he thought he saw. First locking his doors, he started his car, driving to a spot between two semis. With no other stop for miles and no need to risk a DUI, he was at least going to be near other people before settling in for the night. Turning his car off, but leaving the keys in his ignition, he climbed into the back. After brushing his teeth, spitting into a bottle instead of opening the door, he pulled the covers over. His mind continued to turn, still disturbed by what he thought he saw. A low whine flowed over the van. As the wind picked up, it added a white noise that, at any other time, would have been comforting. He turned one way, then another, then tried using a shirt to cover his eyes from the glow of the gas station. For the first time, he thought, why don't I have curtains? Sure, his windows were tinted, so it's not like people could just see in, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was, he didn't want to look outside. That's when the tapping started. It was barely audible at first, but grew more apparent between the gusts of wind. Something was tapping at the base of the door to his right. Gathering his strength, He slowly pushed the shirt from his eyes, and without moving his head to preserve some attempt at trying to appear asleep, he looked towards the window. Nothing was there. Nothing visible. Sighing, he ditched the effort at pretending to sleep and sat up to look around, deciding that alcohol was making him paranoid, and that it was probably a piece of trash flapping in the wind. He turned over to his other side. Resolved to sleep, his mind mellowed, wandered, reviewed the day, then began to dream. "You're so lonely," the voice echoed, foreign to his dreams, yet indistinguishable from the free flowing of his imagination. He was standing in the middle of rolling hills, no farmland, no roads, just a mix of green, tall grass and a herd of wild buffalo in the distance. It felt peaceful. Behind him, he heard the voice again. "If you're so lonely, why don't you come with me? I'm lonely too." Carson turned to face her. She was beautiful. Thick black hair, deep ochre skin, hazel eyes. She was thin, barefoot, wearing animal skin and a bead necklace. Her lips were full, her pinched waist curving out to white hips. Slowly, she raised her right hand, balled in a fist. She swung it forward in small taps, echoing knocks like thunderclaps across the plains. "Why don't you open the door? I'm lonely too." The immersion faded for a moment, causing doubt in his head. "Open the door? What do you mean?" She walked closer, her intoxicating scent clouding his mind. She held out her hand, palm upward. "Grab my hand and pull upwards. I can do the rest." Carson's hand tentatively reached outwards, hovering above hers. Something felt off. This was a dream, but it wasn't. Her soft features hardened, eyes flashing anger, her mouth turned downward. "I said, pull my hand upwards." A part of him desperately wanted to please her. Another felt confused, cautious, keeping him from pulling her hand up, yet he couldn't retract it either, so it hovered there. Her glistening skin grayed, then cracked. Her eye shrank backwards, her fat hollowed, the animal skins falling from her shoulders. Quickly she produced a rut-sack blanket to cover herself as the skins dropped, then swaddling upwards to produce a hood as clumps of hair peeled from her skull, falling in fleshy smacks against the grass. "No. Reach out and pull up. Stop my pain. Save me from my loneliness." Carson tried walking backwards. He tried to retract his arm, but he was paralyzed as the woman shriveled to an upright corpse before him, some teeth falling, other teeth sharpening, her jaw slacking, form hunching, empty eye sockets never wavering in their gaze. A low, strained noise dryly escaped her throat, raising in volume as both her hands flew up, clawing outwards in a repetitive motion. The sharp, painful sounds repulsed him, till he could bear it no more, releasing him from his waking nightmare. Hand hovering inches above the door's lock, staring into the sockets of the wide-mouthed corpse, cloth hooded over her head, oily strands of stiff hair buffeted in the howl of the wind, long streaks of bloody lines still being etched into his window. Carson bolted backwards, then flew to the front seat, screaming in his flight. He quickly turned the key and stomped on the gas pedal, lurching him from his spot, narrowly missing a semi parked in front of him. His 6 cylinders roared from their cold start, accelerating his pace faster and faster. Checking in the rearview mirror, he saw the thing chasing him for a moment. Just as he passed the corner to leave the trucker's oasis out of sight, the woman paused, turned, and walked back towards the sleeping semis. My dear listener, Carson was fortunate. While lonely, he had not yet succumbed to the total isolation that the road can bring without another there to balance your thoughts, your loves, your fears. He was looking for new experiences, searching for trinkets and stories to bring home to his friends. Little did he know, he wouldn't just be a tourist of South Dakota. He would be a tourist of the metaphysical, spending the night and nearly the rest of his life in Croatoan County. If you like the story, please share it with your friends and family. Give the video a like and follow for more tales broadcast from the Croatoan radio station. To my night owl and night shift friends up late this evening, please be safe. And no matter what lure is used to play on your wants, your desires, don't open the door.